Good morning, Bitcoiners. I hope you're doing well. I'm loving my life. Who could complain on a day like today? Who could complain? Not me. Not me. Gonna make sure the YouTube people are coming in. Stupid delay. We hate the delay. All right, the delay sucks. That's okay though. We don't mind it. Oh, now I just made a. Well, don't know how that happened. If I click on it to see if it's working, it starts playing the video back at me. Come on, Rumble. You can do better than that. There we go. Happy Monday, team. Bitcoin Deb. That's almost enough confirmation for me that we're live on YouTube. Happy to hear it. I do wish we would get the Twitter comments on this interface, but that's okay. Kevin Opar, howdy, howdy. John Klontz says, good morning from Colorado Springs. John, let me tell you, I got one of our homeschool family friends are moving. They're a military family, so their next deployment, he's in the Space Force, and he was here doing Space Force law, I guess. And they'll all be deploying to Colorado Springs next. They're looking forward to it. They have some of the best homeschooling, apparently, in the country. Dale says, good morning from Saskatchewan. Saskatchewanese is here. We love them. Good morning, Christine. Hope you're doing well, Christine. John, hope you're doing well, my man. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well, everyone. Great, good news. Let's acknowledge we got a pretty good sunrise. It's a little dark. The Grand Prix of Montreal had a little rain yesterday. It's been rainy all weekend, but that's okay. We're fine with a little bit of rain, right? Things are going great. Who can complain about rain? Not me. Loving it. Sun's up. Flag's down, right? Stupid flag. But Bitcoin's running. Let's have a coffee. Talk about what's new. T-Dog is up. Oh, no. What just happened there? Don't know why that happened. I guess because I'm on very low battery. Let's say T-Dog up early for the breakup. Balaji bringing the goods today. Indeed. 404, all links and email, but all worked tweet any day. DIY. Not sure. Everyday walking with Christ. Good morning, Count. I am talking a little bit about Balaji today, not too much, but I got him on my. He's in my notes. Good morning, fine folks. Good morning, Greg. Good morning, Nolan from Greg and Grace in Florida. Good morning, Greg and Grace. We love hearing from Greg and Grace. We love it. We love it. All right. So we've had some coffee. I'm going to have one more sip, right? It's a good cup of coffee. Now, let's get into some Moscow time. There's some good fake news. Weekend fake news is always great, right? What do we got in our tour of where it's warm in the world? Oh, by the way, I'm not laughing. Okay? Look at me. This is not laughing. I'm not laughing at people's misfortune, but there was a journalist from CNN who died this weekend, okay? Now, there was an interview with him and some kind of a science person about the vaccine, and he was laughing and mocking the person who was warning him. So the person he was interviewing a couple of years ago was warning him that the COVID vaccine might kill the journalist. And the journalist was like, so you think I have a ticking time bomb inside of me? Now, I have no idea if he died of the vaccine or not, right? I have no insight, no clue. Sounded like it was a heart thing. But even then, I have nothing. There's no connection, right? But here's what's funny. So remember, we do all these skits on what we would do. How would we know if it's warm, right? My first one today, I'll read it. In Malaysia, warmer temperatures mean fewer male turtles, hurting conservation efforts. So it's hot in Malaysia. Malaysia's hot, right? So, I've been doing this whole, where is it hot? What would we do without the news? Where would we know if it's hot? We wouldn't know. I might end up packing a winter jacket to go to Mexico in the summer, or Texas, or I might have ended up in Nevada this weekend at the Trump rally, and I'd be like, where's my toque? Where's my hat? Where's my mittens, right? Because I wouldn't know what temperature it would be. What would I do? But here's the funny thing. It's not funny. I'm not laughing. the journalist who died this weekend, right? And people were sad, and they had a thing for him on CNN, and they did a compilation of his career. And the first clip, and they cut it, the one that was going around on the internet, the first clip of this journalist, what would we do without these people, right? What would we do without them? The first clip in his history, in his contribution to journalism was, it's hot, and then it clips. It's hot. Where? We don't know. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? So the guy was saying it was hot, right? You know, that's what the journalists do, right? Where is it hot? You're a journalist now. Where's it hot? So I'm not laughing at his death, okay? Just because he was mocking that guy about the vaccine doesn't mean he deserved to die, everybody. Come on, we can be better than that. But now what? One less person to tell us where it's going to be hot. I don't know. Arizona, what am I going to do? It's summer. I don't know. Malaysia, it's hot, right? It's hot. All right. If the temperature doesn't work and we have no journalists left and we don't know where it's hot because we don't have the news anymore and we can't guess, good news, the Washington Post letting us know you can actually just use dead flowers. How? Well, they'll explain. What dead flowers tell us about the future of life on Earth? Oh, the dead flowers. Let me check out this dead flower. I can tell that the future of Earth is bad. The flower's dead. So here's what they say. Amid an extinction crisis, it's an extinction crisis right now, everyone. We're living through an extinction crisis. Amid an extinction crisis, dried plant collections capture how the world is changing. But Duke University is shutting down its world-renowned herbarium. What are we going to do? I don't know. This one's good, right? So the raw milk thing won't stop now. Remember what I said? It's like my predictions with Bitcoin and where I came up with that. It was not that I thought Trump was going to love Bitcoin and get into it. That's not where it came from. It came from the idea that everyone embraced open borders because Trump said he wants to close the border in the 2016 election. So now everyone's like, it's great news because it just creates mental illness. You rush to the furthest extreme, right? So we've seen this crossover now with the raw milk, and so there's all kinds of raw milk stories now. This is what the Wall Street Journal is telling us today. The FDA warned Americans against raw milk. Influencers are drinking it anyway. They're not listening. They're not listening to the FDA. Oh no. Well, this is a study, I don't know if it's from the FDA, but they're trying to help you guys. They're really concerned about you. All right. The New York Post says, now we can try and figure out all kinds of things that are wrong in the world. Is it the poisoned food? Is it the alcohol? Is it the seed oils? We don't know, right? But the New York Post letting us all know that they might have figured out, the studies might have figured it out. Here's what it is. Exposure to loud aircraft noises. It's being near an airport makes you fat. That's what it is. It's being near an airport, guys. Don't live near an airport. You're going to get fat, okay? Because then it's like, you're going to fly places. You're not going to walk, right? You know what it would do for your waistline if you walked to California and you were near the airport in New York? You'd be skinny at the end. Okay, so it's not just the exposure to the loud aircraft noises, it's the proximity. Right, you just fly everywhere, so that's why you'll end up being fat. Walk across the country. Come on. All right, here's the raw milk one. Influencers are drinking it anyway. Those fucking influencers. Okay, well, the New York Post also has other news about health and all that stuff, right? They're not saying it's just being near airplanes. Okay, there's more to it than just airplanes. Now they're wondering what is causing all the turbo cancers, right? Here's what they think: U.S. doctors probing if COVID is to blame. COVID. This is COVID to blame for unusual spike in cancer after the pandemic. Was it COVID? We don't know. I think I blame the airplanes. I'm with the airplane theory, okay? That's just me, right? Don't live near an airport. By the way, I did live near one once, and I did get fat. It was in New York City, and I lived near JFK. I lived in the Rockaways, which was like the beach community in New York City. And depending on cloud coverage and what was going on, sometimes the airplanes would start taking off and landing like right above my place. And, you know, I just moved to New York, so I did gain a bit of weight moving to New York. I won't lie. Right? We got a little heavy with a regularly pregnant wife and the invention of Uber Eats. Not a good combination in New York. No, but it was the airplanes. I should have known. I lived near airplanes. I heard the airplane noises all the time, and I just couldn't help myself. I had to eat extra candy and all that kind of shit. So here's what we know from Canada, right? So Canada starting to think about Robert Kennedy's campaign. Remember a few weeks ago, just so they're trying to keep up. They're like, who is Robert Kennedy? I read that was like a month ago. Who is he? In Canada, they're asking, who's Robert Kennedy? I don't know. Here's what we know today. Why Robert F. Kennedy's current presidential polling numbers might not hold up until November. And they go in and they explain, like if you read the article from the Canadian News, this is what the Canadians learned. Sometimes polling doesn't equal results in the campaign. That's it. Why? They say they don't really answer it, right? Okay, that's fine. So now we got some good Hunter Biden and Joe Biden stuff, right? So what do we know from Hunter had his thing last week, right? Hunter, and I'm with Hunter actually in the addiction question. I totally am. I'm with Hunter. No kidding, not joking, right? The addiction question is a good one. And I think his defense is solid, right? At the time he answered with the guns, I wasn't an addict. And again, I'm all for crackheads getting guns. Honestly, I am. But I'm glad I know about this, right? See, this is for Canadian audience again. So you can tell it's extra special good, right? Here's what they say. Hunter Biden's family weathers a public, expansive airing in federal court of his drug addiction. Oh, this must be so hard. Public about his drug addiction? Yikes, yikes, yikes. And now we know this. This is from Politico, right? This is from Joe Biden and the Hunter business stuff. What is that? What do they say in Politico? Joe Biden insists he's not involved in his family's business dealings. He insists, everyone. He insists. It's okay. He insists. His aides are a different story, however. So Politico getting deep here, right? They say he insists, so he's clear, right? But his aides, they might be involved in stuff, right? His family's business dealings. Many of Biden's closest staffers and advisors have doubled as his relatives' business associates, both during and after their time working for him. What could be going on? I don't know. It's just a coincidence, right? It's just a coincidence. This one's good because you know all those totally unfounded rumors that are not true, and I don't think they're true. I don't think Biden shot himself last week, right? I know a lot of people said that he actually shot his pants when he was at the D-Day thing. I don't think it's true. All right, I really don't. I don't think he shot his pants at all. Some people say, a lot of people are saying that he shot his pants. I've heard it. I hear people out there saying, oh, the president was leaning over and bending down not to find a chair. He was shitting himself into his underwear and his wife had to carry him out of there because he had shot himself so much. Now, I don't believe any of that, right? I just don't believe any of it, right? Like we said, he insisted his family had nothing and he had nothing to do with the stuff. I think he insists as well he didn't shit himself. So I believe him, right? I believe that he didn't shit himself. But it just still makes this headline funny, okay? This is just a funny headline because he didn't shit himself. Because he didn't shit himself, okay? So I'm not for unfounded attacks on Biden. There's enough to attack. We don't have to invent his shitting stuff, right? But this is pretty good, right? This is from Politico. Let me see. Come on, you motherfucker. Well, anyway, I'll read it. It says, Biden tries to stop the Democratic bedwetting about his reelection. So can the not shitter, I didn't shit myself, Joe Biden, stop the Democrats from wetting their bed? I don't know. It's a good question, though, Politico, right? Biden tries to stop the Democratic bedwetting about his reelection. It's a good headline, right? It's just a good headline. You gotta embrace it, right? So the no shitter will stop the bedwetting. I agree. It's a good Joe Biden headline. Very good, very strong. And if he doesn't do that, they're going to make sure he does this, right? New York Times giving him advice. Whose fault is inflation, they ask, right? And the New York Times are asking, whose fault? Who did the inflation, right? We've heard many theories about it, right? We've heard it was the greedy grocery stores did it, right? We heard it was the war in Ukraine. Putin did it, right? Putin did it, right? Now, the New York Times giving Biden some advice. Whose fault is inflation? Liberals want Biden to blame big business. Yeah, it's the greedy people, guys. We all know it's the greedy people. Who cares? I agree, Crypto Truth. I don't care if he shot himself. I'm not telling. I told you he didn't shit himself. I don't agree with it. Okay, I don't agree. But can he stop the bedwetting? I don't know. We don't know. We don't know. We just don't know. So there you go. Now, you might think these people are evil, right? You might think these journalists are evil. And I know we make fun of them. Are they stupid? Are they evil? We're not sure. But at least they have this answer, right? They're trying to save the world, right? They're trying to save the world. So they came up with a plan. They have a plan now. Their new plan. They just released it. Their plan to save the world. It's in the New York Times today. Here's what it is. Shrink the economy, save the world. They're going with the economic growth has been ecologically costly. And so a movement in favor of degrowth is growing. The degrowth movement is growing, according to the New York Times. Degrowth. Let's do some degrowth, right? Oh, if that's not good enough, right? This is my favorite one for the day. Now, it's coupled. I have two. There's two for the day, okay? So I'm going to mix them. So the first one, you got to see it. Okay? Because it's a big part of it. No, I actually have three left. Sorry. They got to put all these together, okay? Now, all these journalists, right, we've been talking about them, but the Business Insider has an idea, and I think it could actually work, okay? I think this idea can work, and I'll explain to you who it can be applied to, all right? So it's not for everyone, so they're only slightly close to what's going on here. So first of all, they say, here's an idea. A worldwide universal basic income paid for by a carbon tax. A study found that it could boost GDP by 130%, right? That's not degrowth, right? That's big time growth. Now, you're going to hear a lot of Bitcoiners say, oh, UBI is the worst, universal basic income. We can't just print money. We can't do that, right? Now, I mostly agree with you. But still, we have a problem on our hands because once we hit hyper-Bitcoinization and we get rid of the fake news because they can't make a market, I think they're a little too brain damaged, right? So Bitcoiners are going to come up with a choice. Do we kill all these people or do we feed them some kind of bug type concoction, right? I'm not sure. I don't know what the answer is, guys. Either we just let them all die. I'm not really down with that, though. I don't want to see the mass starvation of even people like Jennifer Rubin, even people who would write articles like this, right? I hope for her, we can give her a nice, like a card, and the card will be like, I am entitled to so many crickets a day and so much bug flour a day, and I can eat a cockroach on the weekends. Like, that's what I want for her. I don't want her to die. I want UBI baked in with US dollars. Now, I do want her to have a bit of a social credit score with the UBI, like a CBDC thing involved, right? Because like if she starts writing her mischief stuff again, and I'm going to read what she just wrote, if she starts writing this stuff again, it's like jaywalking in China. Like she loses a cockroach for the weekend. She gets less bug to eat, right? Her dollars won't go as far with the bugs. Yeah, Jose, I want universal super income. Exactly. I want it. I want the universal super income because we can't, it's just, anyway, this is the kind of stuff she's writing. Okay. So you'll always hear from me if ever you hear these events or a debate at a Bitcoin conference, Bitcoiners for or against UBI. UBI is the worst. I'm going to argue against the Bitcoiners. It's Bitcoin for us, right? We're not going to be using the bug money, right? No. It's just so they don't have to kill these people. That's all I'm saying. I just don't want them to die, okay? I just don't want mass death. I want people to live. I want Jennifer Rubin and the other journalists to live. right? And if they can figure it out one day, maybe they can get a little Bitcoin, get off the bug diet. I'm okay with that. I want to forgive and forget, guys. I want to forgive these people. Okay, so she has an opportunity. There's a pathway for her. I think if she gets it, she can get off the bug diet. But still, we got to come up with a plan here, guys. Okay, we can't just be ad-libbing what's happening next to these people. If we don't prepare a CBDC and a UBI for the bug eaters, it's going to get ugly. Okay, and I don't want ugly. All right, but this is the stuff she's writing. This is what she's out there writing. So she wrote this today. Okay, so if she pulls shit like this again, right, then maybe she will get punished with less bugs. But this is what she says: for presidents, it's not age, but judgment that matters. Okay, so a derided Wall Street Journal article about Biden slipping warrants a reset. Right, we got to reset. She says the 2024 coverage. We got to reset it, right, because age isn't working. Right. So the widespread media condemnation of a shoddy front page Wall Street Journal article about President Biden slipping with age suggests we may have reached a journalistic inflection point, she says. That suggests we might have reached it. Yeah, I agree. We've reached an inflection point. People out there trying to say that Joe Biden's age doesn't matter, they got to get the bugs and the UBI because otherwise we kill them. There's no other way. They're not going to reform themselves. They're not going to get better. Okay. She's out there writing this stuff. She says the journal article relied almost entirely on the views of two highly partisan Republicans. Oh my God. Can you believe it? Right? House Speaker Mike Johnson and former Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Maybe the overwhelmingly negative response by other journalists to what was essentially the promotion of a right-wing meme will reduce such irresponsible reporting as the election year continues. So her plan here is that, maybe the negative response will change people's minds. Maybe, right? She says, rather the journal's faceplant, she calls this article a faceplant. The journal's article is a faceplant, lead to a much larger discussion. To what extent and in what way age matters? So what she thinks is that the Wall Street Journal faceplanted, but it might lead to a larger discussion about the role of the presidency, she says, right? And we should actually not think of it in terms of age. We should think of it in terms of performance. It's a performance-based thing. It's not age, right? So what's the performance? She says, frankly, it has nothing to do with the sort of factors Biden's critics obsess over. Verbal slips, how fast he moves, they don't matter, she says. It's how you perform, right? Political journalists tend to deal heavily in the realm of politicians' quips and comebacks, as well as horse race politics and presidential visuals. They naturally then come to think of a president with whom they interact in debates, news conferences, and interviews as a media performer. Does he misspeak? Does he physically stumble? Focusing on such relatively superficial subjects has come to define political journalism. She missed did he shit himself? Right? And I'm saying no, but some people are saying yes. Okay, so she missed that. She says, but let's stop for a moment. A president's gate, verbal tics, and minor recall errors and shitting yourself, potentially, have virtually nothing to do with the job of being president. Exactly what I'm saying. If you shit yourself, you can still be the president. There's no penalty for shitting your pants at a ceremony. Like, you don't get impeached. You're not going to see like letters saying, I want to impeach the president because he shot himself in front of a crowd. That's stupid. No one's going to do that, right? No one wants to change the Constitution to get rid of either bedwetters or underwear shitters, right? They're not impeachable offenses. I'll stand by that, okay? She wouldn't have to go on the other, on the UBI for the bugs if she's just writing about that. That's okay, right? A president's gate, verbal tics, and minor recall errors have virtually nothing to do with the job of being president. The White House occupant is not a Jeopardy contestant. Of course not. They're not. A stand-up comic. No, they're not that either. A talk show host or guest. The president is the head of the executive branch and the commander-in-chief, everybody. The leader of the free world. Biden is the leader of the free world. The job of being president is executive management. Duh. Something with which political reporters, as opposed to business reporters, she says, business reporters. We get it. We're political reporters. We get it, right? Right. The business reporters have virtually no expertise. I'm not even a business reporter. I'm like a Bitcoin lover. What am I, right? I have no business, she says, right? I don't understand this stuff. I'm an idiot, right? I'm an idiot. She should be asking whether a candidate can absorb necessary details. Yes. A candidate can make good personnel decisions, reach sound conclusions, evaluate risk, and consider the consequences of actions. So let's hire a bunch of people, put them into different state prosecutorial offices, go with cases that are completely stupid and have no way to get going forward because no one believes them and they're completely founded on nothing, like the Fannie Willis case, dead, like the Boxes Mar-a-Lago hoax, dead. We're really good at the consequences of our actions. We're so good at it. We're the best. That's actually my theory. Democrats can't actually, they're incapable of imagining the future. I put it in my book, The Bitcoiner's Guide to MPC Management, because it's a dimensional advantage for us. We can actually predict things and they can't, right? Which is why I always bring up predictions. Their inability to predict what happens in like an hour is hilarious. It's hilarious, right? Get him again. Get Trump again. It's going to help us. Maybe now the people will think he's a tyrant. Maybe now. More. Can the president separate personal interests from the interests of the nation or allies or even the planet? Well, like they said, it's hard to separate your personal interests when the media just keeps going into Hunter Biden's drug addiction and family problems, right? That's really hard. So she's right. That is what the president does day after day, she says, right? The president does that day after day. And we do not need to be armchair psychiatrists to evaluate the sort of presidential fitness. As I have written, Trump's closest colleagues tell us that he's willfully ignorant, cannot grasp basic concepts, cannot absorb written material. I mean, I really do think Trump is going to go down as like not just a stable genius, the stablest genius. And Jennifer Rubin, who's going to be eating bugs unless she dies. Okay, that's what's up for her: death or bugs. Okay. The Bitcoiners, it's freedom or death, right? The UBI thing that we're going to cook up for these journalists is bugs or death, okay? It's bugs or death. They're going to get license plates, right? Bugs or death. I choose bugs. Oh, she's saying here that the president can't absorb written material, right? As for his hiring decisions, by his own admission, he's hired a slew of dumb or incompetent people. He gloms on to ridiculous quack theories, and he channels the ideas and rhetoric of America's enemies and of historical villains. Trump cannot keep national secrets, she says. He can't keep a secret, right? Or understand they are not his. He is incapable of grasping the values and ethos of military service because he is so susceptible to flattery and so thin-skinned. He cannot tell friend from foe. And as a former national security advisor, John Bolton, put it, she's quoting John Bolton. John Bolton put it, Trump really only cares about retribution for himself, and it will consume much of the second term. Part and parcel of good decision-making is impulse control. If he cannot refrain from lashing out in anger at allies, spilling secrets to U.S. national enemies, or launching personal attacks and threats against fellow Americans in defiance of court orders, no less, one cannot be entrusted with the immense responsibilities of the presidency. He can't be trusted. So they go on. She goes on. It's just great. So she's getting the UBI. We have to embrace UBI, guys. Otherwise, you have to vote to kill her, okay? You have to vote to kill her. I'm not doing that. I think she's too funny. I think, a little bit of bug diet. Maybe she earns a window one day out of her pod, right? Maybe she gets a pod and a window if she changes her attitude a little bit and wisens up. But anyway, we don't have to kill these people, okay? They don't have to die. I don't want to see them. Please give me a Satoshi. I need food. I don't want to see that, right? I just want to forget about her. Forgive and forget, right? I'm into forgiving and forgetting. So UBI, we're going to get all them bugs ready for her. It's going to be great, right? Now, AOC also worried, right? What did AOC say this weekend, right? She's been reading a lot of the Jennifer Rubin, I think. AOC says, and worried about what John Bolton said, that Trump's second term will just be retribution. What does AOC say? AOC frets Donald Trump would throw her in jail if he wins. He's out of his mind. AOC's going to jail. She's going to jail. And I think I had a few more of these ones of all the bad things that Trump is going to do. Yeah, I think I got a few of the bad ones. Anyway, I can't find them. My last one of the day, and this is great. This comes from The Atlantic, right? Now, imagine how many bugs you'd have to eat before you change your mind if you're one of these writers, right? Imagine how skewed your worldview would need to be to write this headline after last week, right? Imagine writing this last week, right? So this comes to The Atlantic. A bad week for backers of the big lie, right? Two influential perspectives are purveyors of Donald Trump's web of lies recently faced trouble. So what they're saying here was last week, everybody, was a really bad week for election deniers, right? Election deniers, right? People who think that the 2020 election was a scam. Last week was a bad week, according to The Atlantic, right? The walls are closing in on Trump's big lie, right? The walls are closing in. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? They'll become janitors. Jumper DCS said, maybe. I'll send some bug tokens to her wallet. Yeah. All this has that. Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Very good. Scalping sats. Why don't you screen share? The screen share on this thing is not great. And I normally do, but I have to create another. I have to do another. I have to do almost a presentation. I have to put them in a file folder first to put it up here. Today I just had time for this one. So another time scalping sats I can put the thing on. It takes another 10 minutes, let's say. I just didn't have it this morning. That's why I didn't do it. I don't know how you managed to keep this. I'm shadow banned, Crypto Truth. On YouTube. I've been off YouTube so long, I didn't know where your posts on X were coming from. YouTube. Yeah. I don't know why. I mean, it is shadow banned. It doesn't grow. It doesn't get any traction. It doesn't, compared to, for example, Rumble, it's not even close. So that's what's up. All right. So the theme today, after all that fake news, is about a reorg attack. So do we know what reorg attacks, everyone, are? So reorg attack is a very typical blockchain attack, most prevalent in not Bitcoin. It's much harder in proof of work. I don't think we've had a reorg attack in Bitcoin in many, many years. But I do believe that's what the only time Bitcoin went down, the only time Bitcoin wasn't running, the early hack was, I think, a reorg attack. I don't think it was a 51% attack. Anyway, a reorg attack is like getting transaction out of order. It's especially prevalent in anything that uses the EVM, the Ethereum virtual machine. If you guys don't know what the virtual machine does in Ethereum, now this is not to make a big case for Ethereum or anything like that, but an amazing invention that did come out of Ethereum are the EVMs. And the virtual machines, what they basically do is just prioritize transactions. They put the if-then stuff in the right order, right? Because otherwise you can take things out of order pretty easily. It's all the consequentials. If this person does that, then we'll do this. If, then, right? So in order to make this logical and avoid double spend, because these are all consequential transactions, right? Bitcoin doesn't, you've got to get re-involved in the transaction every time it moves back and forth. So you can do if-thens, but they require human input in order to make them happen, right? So this definitely happens in hash wars were. Yeah. So if you can definitely see this very typically in the EVM ones, because there's much more reordering to do. So it increases the surface area of attack. So it is at once a weakness, but we also learned a lot from virtual machines, and it's been a pretty good experiment and useful for people understanding how to scale Bitcoin, put it that way. So in crypto, there's a lot of reorg attacks. This happens in Solana all the time. It happens in In fact, Solana this weekend, as I understand, has found a way to get rid of the MEV piece that creates a lot of these reorg attacks. So what I'm saying here is that the reorg within fiat, the reorg attack is happening. And what I mean by that is the fiat order requires a certain hierarchy of actors, players, peers, right? Peers. It is a peer network, except that the peers aren't anyone who runs the code like in Bitcoin. In the case of fiat, the peers are the media, the military industrial complex, government, politicians, those kinds of people, right? Anyone who is out there assigning opinions, anyone who's out there pumping the dollar, anyone who we read in Moscow time. And so what we're saying here, there's a reorg attack. You can see the reorg because both politicians, media, and academics, for example, all those who were at the top of the funnel when it came to how the US dollar was built, all those who were closer to the top of the pyramid, those people who were there to help propagate the network, right? Their power is getting reorganized, and you can see it all around you every single day, right? So you can see it in the case of what happened this weekend, for example, in Maricopa County, right? Just like we saw in that article from The Atlantic, a bad week for backers of the big lie, right? A bad week for backers of the big lie. At the same time, you had Maricopa County yesterday coming up with the following, right? And so Maricopa County, one of the most corrupt election counties in America. This is the one that takes like 3 months to count the votes, right? So Maricopa EPS has a compiler installed that provides the ability to modify and create executable files and drivers on the fly that could be used to alter election results without detection. There is evidence new executable files were created at least 3 times during the active voting period of 2020. We also found out a few other things, right, that are pretty interesting. Let me get them. We found out that a little bit about the paper ballots. Let me see if I can find it. They're a little bit out of order. Don't know why they came in out of order, but that's okay. Well, anyway, what we learned was let me see if I have it. Where is it? Well, I don't know where it is. But anyway, I had another thing there that just basically explained how the paper ballots were filed. Oh, here's where it is. Here's where it is. Found it. So this is with the Maricopa County. Yes, with 200,000 plus non-conforming counterfeit 2020 Maricopa ballots, with some quantity being 7-1, remember, voter volunteer data for Joe Biden. Based on forensic audit testimony, it looks like a ballot stuff job to make Joe win. And so Rasmussen reports saying the modified illegal software produced the 2020 Biden win, but the Trump vote turnout was so big that there wasn't enough legal 80-pound vote secure paper on hand to fabricate the needed backfill. So they ended up with 10 different paper types, some 20 to 30 pounds of regular copy paper. So you can actually see the corruption in these, in the way the votes came through. So just remember, we've got journalists now and trying to talk about democracy. They're completely incapable. We saw it all over the place, right? We saw we saw it happen across America. We've even seen this journalist. Did you see this journalist from Al Jazeera? Did you see this guy from Al Jazeera? So this is a journalist, guys, right? This is the same journalist that the other journalists are telling you got to cry over the journalists dying that are in Palestine. The Israelis are attacking journalists. Well, what journalists were there? Well, we found out who the kidnapper of one of these hostages was in Israel, right? This girl was famous in the picture, sort of, like kind of Asian looking, reaching out as she was being whisked away. So it turns out she was just put into home slavery. She went to a rich home. She had to clean up. She had to cook for them. She had to do all this kind of stuff, right? But who were her captors? Well, it was an Al Jazeera journalist. As an Al Jazeera journalist. He's a Gaza-based reporter and photojournalist. This was the guy who did it, right? So you had journalists covering for journalists who were doing kidnappings and stuff like that, right? You've got journalists just this week telling us that the Maricopa situation is a bad week for people who believe in the big lie. There's basically no way to have any assurances we even had an election in 2020. Remember, Bitcoiners understand the meme. Don't trust, verify. And it applies to elections. It importantly applies to elections. And if you have no way of even auditing what happened in the 2020 election, you can't be sure we had an election. Bitcoiners, I don't think, can actually say that there was an election. If you're a Bitcoiner, there's no way you can say, if you understand Bitcoin, there's no way you can say we had an election in 2020. It would be like saying that you made a Bitcoin transaction, except there's no way of knowing, there's no way of checking the blockchain, there's no way of seeing in the Bitcoin public ledger that a transaction happened, right? So there you go. It's a big problem, and having journalists out there that don't even know what's going on is a type of reorg attack in the end, because people can see it, right? People can see these people shouldn't be at the top of the propagation system. They shouldn't be the only peers within the US dollar peer-to-peer network. They're captured and corrupted. And it gets further, right? The journalists for whom they're supposed to cover and expose, right? They do nothing of the sort. And now the journalists are getting to be as low as the politicians, right? Politicians have never really been held in high esteem, but nevertheless, there was a certain dignity that came with the job that was inferred by many people, especially in Europe. Well, what happened this week in Europe, right? What happened this week in Europe was, or this weekend, were elections across Europe. It looks like the entire situation over there has changed. It looked like all of these folks from the far right whipped all of these green parties, socialist parties. You get the same thing happening in France. I guess France had to dissolve its parliament and go to elections because it doesn't look like they even have a domestic mandate. So this was all the European election stuff, right? So there's the two different parliaments. There's the European Parliament, and then every country has its own. So France got trounced so bad, the ruling party got trounced so bad in the European elections that domestically within their own country went and dissolved parliament and will go towards elections. The president stays, right? Macron isn't going anywhere this year, but nevertheless, it's not going to work out. The Belgium liberal prime minister also resigned because of the results. It looks like the right-wing ADF, or AFD, that's the one they tried to ban in Germany. They did the best of all the parties. So now it doesn't look like it was all good news. Raheem Kessem says, besides France, it's not been a massive upset in favor of the populist nationalist right in Europe. But I would disagree. I mean, I think he's making every country seem equal here, right? Like if you make every state in America equal, well, it's not exactly what happened. If you take France and Germany and Holland and England and Spain and Italy, all of whom did well, that's like saying, okay, in America, California, Texas, and New York all went the same way, right? Those are by far the biggest states. I don't think anyone really cares about Sweden, Austria, Belgium, even though the Belgium guy quit, right? So Raheem's saying not a big deal. Now, I don't really care about Europe, right? I don't really give a shit what happens over there. It's just a faraway place. They're just going to follow whatever we do in America in the end anyway, right? They're not going to lead. They're too weak. It'll happen in America first. They're weaker than Canadians, and Canadians are pathetic, right? This stuff also happening in Canada that you can, we found out this weekend, if you read our newspaper, that we've got actual lawmakers, like actual members of our parliament, of our Congress, that are full on the take for China and foreign governments, right? And they won't even say their names, right? We hear that it's an important headline. It wasn't just MPs who were helping foreign actors, it was lawmakers. For the past few years, many laws, regulations didn't have a made in Canada look and feel. They appear to be designed by or for the benefit of foreign entities. So that's a big thing that's going on in Canada right now. But politicians across Europe, right, just getting absolutely trounced. You saw it across the spectrum, all kinds of people commenting on what happened in the elections. Europeans, according to David Sachs, Europeans are tired of war. They want their leaders to focus on defending their own borders rather than Ukraine's. Belgian MP has resigned. Sunak and Macron could be gone next month. Zelensky is only around because he canceled elections. Bad news for Biden. It goes sort of across the continent, right? You see it in many of the people commenting on it. You get this from, and one of the reasons is the places that lost, especially so UK and France, right? It was all about net zero, right? They went with net zero, so it wasn't just let's get all kinds of immigrants. It was also let's shrink our economies, right? So no one's going for it. So they're both in big trouble. Now, the only politicians that are looking good right now in America, anyway, would be guys like John Fetterman. So John Fetterman goes on TV this weekend, right? He goes on the Bill Maher show. Haven't I said John Fetterman is like the best from the beginning? Was I ever against John Fetterman? I said what we need are mentally ill or retarded people in office because they'll probably be closer to the mark, right? I said we need low IQ people. I'm still John Fetterman for president, honestly, right? I think John Fetterman would be the number one choice for Democrats, at least. He should be the Democrat nominee. I wasn't kidding when I said this 2 years ago. The minute he won his by-election, or he was in his by-election runoff 2 years ago, 2022, I said, this guy, John Fetterman, has to be the Democrat candidate, right? He had the stroke. He couldn't talk. He was the first AI-assisted candidate. Isn't that cool, right? So this weekend, he says that his near-death experience freed him to speak out and says progressivism left him. Isn't that good? He's the only politician getting anywhere, right? Well, Trump too, of course. The other one I would say is Thomas Massie. So Thomas Massie had a great weekend. He was on the Tucker Carlson show. And I didn't know this. This is what he wrote about this is what he said. And I didn't know this. This is one of the weaknesses of Trump, right? We can all admit. As much as we love Trump, as much as we all love Trump, his last day in office, not so good, right? The no pardons for Ross and Julian. Now he's talked about fixing that problem, and we forgive him for it, right? But the other one, of course, was the COVID mandate stuff. Now, there's fake news trying to tell you out there that you get this from Politico, right? That Trump is attacking COVID vaccine mandates. Public health experts fear it's just the start. So you get that in Politico. So they're trying to say he's going to go back. He's going to get off the mandates. And indeed, he has been. But here's what I didn't know. Thomas Massie, right, when the first COVID stimulus thing was happening, the $2.2 trillion that Trump passed, Thomas Massie said, I go back to the CARES Act. This was under President Trump, the 11th day to slow the spread of 15. They said, we're going to pass a $2.2 trillion package and all of you just stay home. We'll just do it by unanimous consent, he said, right? So this is him telling the story. So he goes, then I said this twice. This is twice the size of the omnibus bill. This is going to cause massive inflation. The policies introduced are going to cause shortages. And if we don't show up to vote, we're sending a message to all 50 states that you don't have to show up to vote in this election. I got in my car and drove for 8 hours. I got there and said, it's not going by unanimous consent, right? So there you go, right? You get people like Thomas Massie, honestly, people like Fetterman, right? Now, I don't really, you can only trust these shit libs so much. But nevertheless, him coming out there speaking openly really does make him look different than the rest of the people. He's not trying to roll you, right? He's not trying to roll you by saying crazy shit that, zero emissions and we'll stop the fucking monkeys in Mexico from dying, right? He's not going down that road. So it's a big thing, it's a big change, right? At the same time, you've got the usual suspects. You've got Lindsey Graham. So think about the contrast in politicians right now. It's the mentally ill. I survived a stroke and I need AI to help me talk. Or it's backbencher Thomas Massie, who did the most unpopular thing 4 years ago, right? I think people hated him for it. So these two people are the only politicians that are getting any credibility and stuff like that. Meanwhile, imagine this, Lindsey Graham, right? Doing God's work. What's Lindsey Graham up to? He's pushing Biden to seize the Russian assets and give them to Ukraine. Wouldn't we love to see that happen as Bitcoiners? Wouldn't we just love to see the seized Russian money go to Ukraine for more war? Wouldn't it be perfect? Now, I'm sick of people dying over there, but if they insist, a bipartisan effort by Lindsey Graham, a Republican, to steal the Russian reserves and give them to Zelensky with a from Biden, gift card would be perfect. It would just be the perfect thing. right? We need more of that. So you've got politicians here, and this is the reorg attack again, right? You've got the journalists and the politicians who just look like shit. They just look like shit. Worse than ever, right? Worse than ever. You've got Balaji today even talking about this, and this is an important thing in the reorg attack, right? Remember what I told you, that one of the things that we need to get out of this is the American brainwashing that their country is this Democrat city on a hill, and their money is about democracy, and their system is not what we've all come to understand it is, a war machine that invented it. The business is war. It's the best war machine that's ever been invented in the history of the world. Not even close, right? And now Americans coming up with the realization that they are not living in the country they thought they are in, and that people are able to say that out loud now. Now, Balaji caught a lot of shit for this weekend by saying California is not a democracy. You had all of the journalists, right? The NOAA opinion, right? NOAA opinion, right? Oh, it's the democracy. California, what an idiot. Balaji is saying California is not a democracy. And he goes through the details, right? He says California is not a democracy. It's a one-party state. Because California Democrats do not hold competitive multi-party elections, no matter how the people vote, a Democrat always wins. The real election is thus actually a selection, where candidates are chosen before the primary in a smoke-filled room by the party. And around the time one-party control was consolidated in the early 2010s, governance started to dramatically worsen, and California's rate growth stopped, right? So we see that it's very clear, right? And, we can say it out loud now. California is a shithole, not democracy. Now, it's the most beautiful state going. Who wouldn't? I mean, it's perfect, right? And you can avoid the homeless people by being, a mile out of their way, right? Just avoid downtown LA, avoid downtown San Francisco. Just don't even go to Oakland. It's going to be perfect, right? It's going to be absolutely perfect. But it's not what they say it is. Now, Jose says, democracy. Yeah, it's a dumbocracy, as in dumb, stupid people. And I'm not, I'm not that. I don't think democracy is the answer, but selling people democracy when you're not one is worse. Right? It's worse. And that's why it's funny. You get Trump. What did Trump say this weekend? Trump was talking about Peter Schiff. You got to hear this. Right. So he comes out, Trump is out there talking about Peter Schiff, who, because we're speaking of California, Peter Schiff is running for senator from California, and he might win. But here's what Trump said about him this weekend. It's excellent. Very, very funny. Get it. So Trump comes out and says, I just got to read it because I love the way Trump speaks sometimes. He deserves some kind of prize for just his use of language and the things he says. Oh, yeah, this is it. So he did this on the Dr. Phil show, right? So Trump goes on the Dr. Phil show. And this is what he says. He goes, call him watermelon head. He's got the thinnest neck I've ever seen. How does it hold up to that head? He's got a neck that's about a size 6, very unattractive guy, both inside and outside. And people say, oh, that's such a terrible thing to say. That's okay. Very unattractive guy. Here's the thing. These are bad people, and these are not easy people to deal with. It's pencil neck. Watermelon head. And by the way, Trump saying that about him. So Trump also alluding to space drops this weekend, guys, right? So what did I say? We're going to get some great old-fashioned public executions by the end of all this. Now, the ones that don't get executed get the UBI. Okay, can we make a deal? If you don't get executed, I'm for UBI for you. But some of them got to go. We know that too, right? I don't want like millions of people dying, right? I want like 5, right? 10 maybe. James Clapper has to be one, right? He just has to. So Trump was talking in Vegas this week about what to do with them, right? And he says, Trump suggests prosecution is coming for the 51 intelligence experts who lied about the Hunter Biden story. The comment came while Trump blasted Biden for defaming him with the suckers and losers hoax. Trump compared the hoax to the Russian collusion hoax, the Ukraine impeachment hoax, and the 51 intel experts laptop hoax. They came up with a story, and I said this, and they put it out and it's been going around for 3 years. It's like Russia, Ukraine, 51 intelligence experts. That phony story. Remember the laptop is from Russia, they said? That should be prosecuted for what they did. Let's see what happens, he says. Did I mean Peter Schiff? I think I meant Adam Schiff. Yeah. Did I say Peter Schiff? Whoops. That's not what I wanted. Yeah, I meant Adam Schiff. I like Peter Schiff. How can we have power to the people when the people are That's exactly what I'm saying, Muslim Brotherhood. How can we have it, right? When they are retarded, you can't give them power to the people. So there you go. And now I'll leave you with one last one. So this is the final one of the reorg attack, right? So this is also just to let you know what we're up against, right? It's important to know. It's important to calculate, right? Freudian slip, yeah. And Veterans Cannabis saying, right? What our social status is now is what becomes real when every facet and function of human are weaponized. Yeah. So the Freudian slip, yeah. Adam Schiff. Yeah, Peter Schiff, Adam Schiff. So here's the funniest one, right? This is just hilarious. So we're up against people like Adam Schiff and Jennifer Rubin, right? And Noah Opinion, right? These are the people we're up against. I would say, I would throw someone in there like JP Conning, but he blocked me, so I can't, he's probably out there going on about fucking some dumb shit this weekend as well. Balaji said America's not a democracy. I love these people who freak out at what Balaji says all the time, So here's what we know. And here's what I think is funny. You've got the journalists, the politicians. This is the reorg attack. These are the people who are now unable to propagate the network because of the reorg. Their place in the order has been reorganized, so they can't persuade people, right? They're left with literally Jennifer Rubin. That's the best they have, guys. They got Jennifer Rubin, right? Age doesn't matter, performance matters. That's the best. But here's the other big reorg, and it's just funny. It's just funny. So this comes from the academics of America, Penn State, right? Now we love Bitcoin Twitter, right? How much fun is Bitcoin Twitter? It's fun. It's been around forever. We love it, right? So the University of, or Penn State University, one of the Ivy League, right? So if you didn't know what the Ivy League was in America, it's one of them. So Penn State states that academic Twitter, right, failed to migrate after Elon Musk purchased the company, right? So here's where academics are coming from. What do you think their chances of changing the world are, right? Here's what they say. So it's a bunch of stupid academics. I won't even say their names. Abstract. Following change in Twitter's ownership and subsequent changes to content moderation policies, many in academia look to move their discourse elsewhere, and migration to Mastodon was pursued by some. Our study looks at the dynamics of this migration. Utilizing publicly available user account data, we track the posting activity of academics on Mastodon over a 1-year period. Our analysis reveals significant challenges sustaining user engagement on Mastodon due to its decentralized structure. Oh, that's why. Yeah, it's because it's decentralized. Yeah, that's what it is. Our analysis reveals significant challenges sustaining user engagement on Mastodon due to its decentralized structure, as well as competition from other platforms such as Blue Sky and Threads. Threads killed it. Threads. Go look up the latest AI thing on Threads. It's from 5 months ago. Imagine you're trying to use Threads to keep up on AI. You wouldn't know what's going on. So the movement lost momentum after initial surge of enthusiasm as most users did not maintain their activity levels, and those who did faced lower levels of engagement compared to Twitter. Our findings highlight the challenges involved in transitioning professional communities to decentralized platforms, emphasizing the need for focusing on migrating social connections for long-term user engagement. So they're not going to make it, guys. They're not going to make it, right? The UPenn or the Penn State folks, not going to make it. No, it's not UPenn. Yeah, it's Penn State University. Is that not? Oh, UPenn is Ivy, not PSU. Okay, that's what I meant. Yeah, and I've screwed it up. I got it backwards. All the big state schools are just as retarded as Ivy. Yes, they are. Of course they are, Sergio. Yeah. Pardon me. I get them a little bit confused. Pardon me. UPenn is Ivy. Penn State University is not. Got it. All right. Well, that's what's up, guys. That's what's up. Reorg attack. The academics aren't going to stop this. They just need to start thinking about what is the best type of UBI for them, right? What's the best UBI? It's like they're going to be picking credit cards, kind of, right? Well, this one has more bug back, right? You get more bugs back if you use this card. You can go to more places with this one, right? You're allowed to travel if you have this card, right? The bug back card. Noster. They didn't even talk about Noster, Robert. These are academics. What about Noster, Robert? Robert, I love you, man, but we're not going to Noster. They're not those types of people, guys. We're not. It's not happening. Okay, that's not happening. All right, team. That's all I got for today. I hope you have a good day. Who didn't poo at Normandy? Yeah. So good. I'm just reading some of these. Yeah, veterans cannabis. I have that story here too. It didn't come in, but indeed the Saudi story is a big one. I have the thing here, right? They've joined the BRICS. Saudi indeed can now too disorganized to reorg. You're right, Robert. I know. It's just what came to me from my title. Indeed, too disorganized. But we like to laugh at them, right? All right, team. That's all I got. I'm going to finish my coffee and sign off. Hope you all have a great day.